Welcome to the Prosperity Podcast for entrepreneurs who are ready to drop the hustle and earn more. I'm your host, Danielle Amos, business and success coach, certified Proctor Gallagher Institute consultant, and lifestyle entrepreneur. Each week, I'll bring you amazing entrepreneurs who have built wealth, harnessing the power of their mind. Prosperity and money are truly about energy, and I'm on a mission to help you create financial abundance through the power of thought. It's time we started normalizing conversations about money and create the wealth that is yours. Are you ready? Let's do this. Welcome to episode 137 of the Prosperity Practice, the podcast that has you living your most abundant life. This is Danielle Amos, and I am your host. Today, I'm bringing on a very special guest. Her name is Mary Morgan, and she is an online business and social media mentor. She had just $100 to her name back in 2018, and she invested in coaching herself. She went on to then create a business that had $80,000, then $100,000, and $130,000 cash months over and over again. You're going to love her story because it's one of persistence. She did 165 sales calls before closing a single client. Think about this. Her 166th call said yes. You're going to hear all about this story, persistence. And then I talked to Mary about what changed in her energy and her action in order for her business to change. We're going to talk identity, self-image, energy, all of it. Come join us now and enjoy. Hello, you are in for a treat today. We have a very special guest joining us. I'd like to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Mary Morgan. She's an online mentor, a business mentor, and a social media coach. Let's have her come on and say hello. Hi, Mary.
Hello. Oh my gosh, I'm so honored and so excited to be on. I know we've got so much gold to dive into. I don't even know where to begin. I'm like, there is so much.
Perfect. So, we'll tell everyone a little bit about where we met. So Mary and I were part of a mastermind together, and we both live in the same area and connected. And it was so cool. We went out for dinner and we just found ourselves like talking nonstop. And we had this thought, wouldn't it be cool if someone was just listening, like they would pay to listen to us talk about our business and our experience. And that's here today.
I know. I was like, Danielle, these are like $1 million conversations right here. We need a third-party camera just listening into this. And I'm like, let's do this. Like, let's have this conversation. We went into like identity work and social media and how this all really affects our business. So you guys are really in for a treat today, and I'm excited.
Thank you for being here again. So Mary, I love your story. And I know that, you've shared a little bit on social media, well, quite a bit actually I've seen, but I'm just a little bit of background for our listeners here on the Prosperity Practice. Talk to us about when you decided to jump into coaching and mentoring and what happened. Like, I understand you had $100 to your name. What happened from there?
So I actually got in almost accidentally into coaching. I didn't even know that this industry was a thing, to be honest. I had a graphic design business that was doing really well. I had a couple people who kept asking me, like, how are you selling multi-$1,000 packages? And I'm struggling to sell this $150 logo. And I didn't know that this effortless part of me could actually be a thing. And often I feel like our genius zone is so effortless to us, so we actually don't see it. So that was the case for me. And I saw an ad randomly that came across, maybe Facebook or something like that around coaching. And I started, as we all do, getting into the consumption, diving into podcasts and listening into different things. And before I knew it, I was in LA listening and being a part of this conference where this woman on stage was talking about her coaching business and what she did with her clients and what she's doing. And I'm like, I've been doing this, but I've been doing this for free for my clients. Like, I want to turn this into a business. So it was at that moment that I wanted to remove myself from just being a consumer and a listener to like, I'm in this, like, let's actually create this. So that was my deciding moment. Once I decided, I saw this opportunity arise. She ended her conversation with an invitation, and it was a $6,000 investment to work with her and her team. And here I am, like, no idea what this is. I had like 6,000 and like barely some change in my account, and I drained my account. So it left me with $100 to my name after that decision. And it was one of the scariest decisions of my life. I went into that and I was like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to show up on every call. I'm going to listen to all the things. I'm going to do the homework. I'm going to take action. And so I did. I showed up on the calls. I took the action. I did all the things. And, you know, a few months go by and I'm 165 calls deep into this sales calls. I get on this call and this woman says, yes, I'm in. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my first sale, maybe this is finally working. And this is, again, mind you, months and months of not seeing any evidence, any validation that this is actually working.
Okay. I think we should pause here for a second, because most people listening, like, wait a minute, did she just say 165 calls?
Yep.
And every call was a no?
Yep.
Okay. So for those of you listening, just put yourself in Mary's shoes. Would you have persisted?
Yeah.
Most people, I don't know, would have.
No. And that's often what I hear. Most people often will tell me, like, good for you for pursuing. And to me, like, yes, I get it, but it's also like, are you an entrepreneur though? Because that's the life of an entrepreneur.
For sure.
Or do you just want to like coach part-time and have like a practice? And that's a very different kind of person.
Oh my gosh. And you're not a failure until you quit. And I find that most that start off as an entrepreneur that don't follow through in this career, they quit just like a few minutes before success, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that story, 3 feet from gold.
Yes.
Where it's like the person was so close to finding like literally like massive amounts of gold, but they quit.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's amazing.
Honestly, that was the graphic that I always kept in mind, because I saw that visual in my mind every time I did feel like quitting. I was like, but what if?
Yeah.
And that's what
the
really
next call. The next call. And 165 calls deep. You get on the call, you hear a yes. What happened?
And then, so she says yes. The next day, it's my fiance's birthday. So we're heading downtown. We're excited to spend the night together. And I'm like, babe, how amazing is this? I just had my first sale. It's your birthday. So I'm in pure bliss, pure excitement. Like, I'm on cloud 9. And then as we're heading down, we're on the subway and I look at my phone, I see a message that comes in and it says, hey, I just took a look at my finances and I actually can't make this happen. So here I am, call after call after call on my way. And I'm now in tears. My makeup's a hot mess because this circumstance totally took me out of it. And here I am, like, wanting to end it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Just when you thought that you had it figured out, at least the first one.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why to put your hot mess makeup on your
way. So hot mess. And it's funny, actually, we were there. So we were about to go to medieval times and my fiance and I were there maybe a week or two ago, not too long ago. And I was like, wow, the last time I was here, I was a completely different human. So I'll take you through that experience because it was quite a wild ride. But, you know, we get there. I'm like, it's okay. We'll figure this out. It'll all work out in the end. And I re-put my trust into things. I saw another investment come up again. At this time, I'm still doing calls. I'm still posting in communities. Like, I'm still trying to grow visibility, brand, all the things. I saw this other investment that's $20,000. And here I am with nothing in my account, no money. Like, if you were to think of all the excuses possible, like, you name it, it was not a good time. It was not the right, like, whatever. And I was like, I want to do this. But my mindset started to change. Instead of it being, I need to do this better work. Like, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to be the best student. I decided in that moment, it might not work, this 20K investment. I might not make an ROI now. I might make it in 20 years. I might make it in 50 years, who knows, but I want to do this. And there was something about the way that I moved in that decision that changed the game for me. And 4 days later, I made $20,000 and I paid it back in full.
So do you know what the difference is?
I do. And I see it so clearly. It's kind of like the way that I picture it is like, if you're late to the cottage and you're trying to get a sweater real quick, you'll run into Walmart, buy a quick little sweater, get it on because you need it. But you don't walk into Gucci because you need a sweater. You walk in because you decide. So it was like, I took my power back. I decided, and I moved from that place.
And you followed pure desire, and you didn't have desire in the need bucket. So I'm going to say it again. So you made a decision from pure desire, which is a completely different energy. You desired the $20,000 container, but you didn't need it. And often we put our desires in the need bucket. Like you said, I desire a sweater. And I feel like I need it. Well, the truth is you didn't need a sweater. You felt like you needed a sweater.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so you put this desire in the need bucket, and need is lack. Need is limitation.
Yeah.
And so then you were, then that's a completely different energy. So I love that you brought up Gucci, by the way. That's like our brand here. I
love it.
I love Gucci. And we don't go into Gucci because we need a sweater. It's because of desire.
You don't run in because you're late to the cottage.
Right. It's like full abundance, full prosperity.
Yes.
And the result is completely different.
And that was my first 6-figure year. So really taking that from, and when I look at the calls that I did back then, I did this recently to really feel my energy back then. And it was like, I would have said the same stuff I say now. So everything I said on that call, I think was great, but who I was being, how I showed up, my lack of confidence, my lack of conviction, my lack was in there.
Your lack energy, it was the energy behind the action that mattered.
Yeah.
And it matters every single time for us. And so what also is so interesting and cool to understand is like, Mary, the first, like that Instagram post or whatever it was that took you to the conference to hear the woman speak was all necessary, was all part of your journey, because you can't do tomorrow's growth if you don't do today's.
Yes.
So isn't it cool to think about, like, when you connect the dots, like Steve Jobs says looking backwards, oh my gosh, like I needed to, like, that's my journey. I said yes to this. I said yes to the 6,000. I learned how to do sales calls like that. And oh my gosh, like how cool. What a great story. So then you invested in pure desire, 20,000. You had your first $20,000 week right after.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was so crazy because I was like, I think it was just because I moved in desire. I created an offer in desire right after that. And then I launched something in desire. And now it was complete magic, complete flow. And every time when I look back at highest cash months, highest sales, highest whatever, it's always been because I've been such in this place of like, let's go. This is fun. It's been flow. It's never been like when I needed it, I never got it. But when I wanted it and I was like, this would be fun, I always did.
Interesting. That's so good. That's so good. I think like really understanding that for yourself is huge. And think about the energy of also need. I'm like, that need is when the hustle comes out, when we're like willing to overwork, you know, doing whatever, like these words that we hear all the time, like, are you willing to do whatever it takes?
Yes,
I am. And I've got to really watch my energy because force negates.
Yeah. And it's so true what you said. And I've never really thought about it like this, but when you said, you know, buying that sweater isn't actually need, it's desire, but we put it in a need bucket. Like, I think that's actually really interesting as a side note, because not a lot of us think about that. It's like, well, it's raining out, so I need a sweater, but it's like, no, you'll survive to get wet, but you want a sweater.
Yeah. So think of how many things, like as a society, as population, and like everyday people put their desires in a need bucket and therefore automatically have it in lack. Like but just by our language, like, oh, well, I need a client. Well, you don't really need a client. You've been surviving, you survived 165 calls without a client, months without a client. So it's not that you need it. But then let's talk about, like, let's really define it for someone. Like, what do we actually need?
Yeah. So I feel like there's a difference between when we make decisions that are uncomfortable and decisions that are unsafe. So like that to me is where like need comes in. And I think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like that starts to come to mind. And for me, it's like, well, yeah, food, water, shelter are needs.
Totally.
But when we come into like things that we desire, so like sweaters or shoes or whatever, like that's where I feel like it starts to get into desire. So even when we say things like, I need a client, I need this to happen, then I don't have money. It's like, but is that actually true? So for me, it was like, could you pick up side jobs? Like totally. Could you, I don't know, teach a Zumba class or a yoga thing, or like find something that you still enjoy that can help supplement some revenue? Could someone support you within your family? Maybe if you have a spouse and they're okay with it and they can pay for certain things and you can support in another way, like finding ways where then we're creating from a place of uncomfortable, but not unsafe. So I think a lot of people, when we invest, we make that distinction. And it can kind of get blurry where people are like, this is my last dollar to invest. And that's where it starts to be this like need, this savior energy. You're here to save me versus this will be fun. I want to be a part of this. And I feel like this is such a big conversation in our space. Like you and I both know it's not good for either the client or us. If you come in and you're like, this is my last dollar, I have 5 minutes and I need this to work. It's like, well, it won't.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain level of courage that I think is necessary. Like, I think I've noticed really if you look at the flip side of that and things are so easy, like people have the money and they're just throwing money at it to fix, it also doesn't work. So I encourage people to go outside their comfort zone, like you said, so that it does feel like a pull. So there's always like a next level, or like maybe it's closer proximity to your mentor that you can invest in, so that it does pull, like really create, like it has you grow in just through that decision. And then you make the decision. I invested without even the cash. So like I actually had to borrow money to be able to do it. And I was already 6 figures in debt when I first invested in myself. And it was actually really uncomfortable because my husband didn't agree. And he actually said, you're putting us in a lot of danger by doing this. And I knew, I can't explain it. Like if you saw it on paper, you'd be like,
doesn't make sense. No.
Right. But I just knew that this was different, and I knew that I could bet on myself. And it wasn't about the mentor. It was about me and the decision. Like I knew it was like, if I didn't do it, it felt like there'd be a big problem, this was my answer. And so I was willing to do that. So I had a lot of courage going in. And I think that you've got to know for yourself though, like, are you willing to be the most courageous in the room, for example?
Yes. I think this is so huge because I always say too, like when we make decisions like this, it's not the decision, but it's who we're being, how we make that decision, not the decision. And I think this is just like what you're saying. It's like, it's not that mentor, it's not that decision. Like, yes, that's a part of it. But if you come in, and we've had this conversation too, it's like you invest in something and you're in this high vibe. Yes, it's all going to work out. And then now that switches because now fear comes in. Totally. It's kind of like we've made it a little messy.
Yeah. Well, and I see this often, and if someone isn't trained in like the energetics behind the decision, they can easily flip back into fear, doubt, and worry. And I'm not saying like that the client doesn't have to be trained, but the mentor needs to know how to hold them in the space of possibility, with them, and have that conversation. Because if we think about, once you've made the decision, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this has got to work. But you're like, oh, this was a bad idea. And you keep flipping back to the lack mentality. And you go like in the beginning, I've seen people like they're like almost like 2 personalities, like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing. Oh, this is the worst thing, the best thing, the best, worst. But where you put your focus is going to grow. And so if you're focusing on the fact that like, there's now not enough, the universe has to prove you right in that, or you can stay focused in possibility. And that takes a lot of responsibility on the client's part to stay
Totally.
at like focus. It's a choice. I'm focused here. And the mentor can continue to remind them, of what that is. But I mean,
yes.
yeah.
And this was such a big piece for me because like I'm a strategic queen, like all things tactics, strategy, all the things like that comes very effortless and easy for me. And one of the biggest issues I start to then notice within myself, and then I started to see with clients, is you can have the strategy, but then if you're not confident on camera, if the energy doesn't come through, if you're not embodied in that thing, it doesn't matter if you're live on Facebook or you post on Instagram, like those things won't even matter. So that's where my work started to evolve slightly as well, to be like, okay, I need to actually do some of this work with clients. It's not just here are the things, go do them. It was starting to then become, here's how to start embodying these things. Here's how you can use that now on social media. And then let's do it again. Like it was more of an iterative process.
It's huge. That's huge. The value you give in that, and the fact that you understand the energetics behind the action and are now coaching your clients is huge. Because the truth is all strategies work. It's going to be the belief in the strategy.
Yeah. And that's actually how I started to like find my own point of difference. Was I was like, oh, I'm really good at helping people go to the depth. So for instance, instead of a lot of mentorship I've done in the past, or my clients would have done, are like, okay, here's the situation. What should I do in this sense? And then often a coach will just be like, all right, here's what you should do. Here's what I've done. Here's what you can do. And they're using their own experience, and then they're teaching from their own experience. And then through my evolution of going through other mentors, my clients, I started to notice, oh, this is where it differentiates for me as well, because I'll start to ask them more questions, go deeper, and I'll start noticing patterns. So like one of my clients had a lot of people in her space that were very unqualified, that felt, I call them bricks. So I say there are bricks or balls in your world. The bricks are the people who you give them a flick and they just don't move. You like push them, they just don't move. And then you have the balls that you just say something and it activates them like a little tick, and then they're just rolling and moving. And those are the people who we want. So she was like, well, Mary, my world is full of bricks. I say things, people are like, this is great, but they don't take action. So we started really looking at, pre-existing patterns and relationships that she had. And she was like, the biggest thing that started to come up was this like savior complex of her always wanting to support, always saving, always helping. So then anyone who came into her space, of course, they're not moving because they're hiding under titles and words and things, and they're playing small and they're consuming and they're not moving. And like, this is who they were. So then we started to do that work, and then it showed up on her social. And then she went from, her first month was an $8,000 month. And then her next month was like 80 something thousand. And she messaged me being like, actually, we closed it out at 100K. So it's like, what? Like we literally 10x'd. And it wasn't anything like, yes, there were some tactical things that we did, but it was the identity work and the inner stuff of let's look at where this is coming from, how we're showing up, and how we can start evolving this and who we're being. And I see this so often.
Yeah, that's so good. And I was going to say, it has nothing to do with her clients that she's attracted. It was all her own stuff. And so her clients were just a projection. So if she's like, attracting the bricks, like you say, the first thing that came to my mind is like, okay, she like loves to be needed, because
the validation,
someone to move them. So like, where else do you need to be needed? Like it's like you said, a habitual way of being. And so when she changes her perception about herself, her whole world changes. I love
exactly. And that's why, like, when people hear these stories, that wouldn't work if it was a tactical thing. Like it wouldn't be that short of time to be like, okay, now we need to find 10,000 new people that are now entering our world. Like that wasn't the case. It was like they were already there. She started to speak differently, and they're like, whoa, who is this? Yes, sign me up. And then it exploded everything. Like they started to take action. And I think a lot of us, we see circumstances around us that show up as problems, and they're not really the problem. Like, it's like, that's just a little flick of something, but it's not that now we need more people. I think we always want to solve by, getting more clients through showing up in a different way. Like we're so quick to try and solve it when that's not even the thing that needs to be solved.
And there's so much information in our physical world that we can work
Yes.
with. Like we're already, like to your point, we often think that the grass is greener over there, or we've got to like go somewhere else, but the truth is you're already sitting on your diamonds. If we bring that back, your acres of diamonds, another story that I love from Think and Grow Rich, actually, that as you change, you'll start to see the diamonds in your right now environment. Like she started to see them in her right there. And it was her perception, but most importantly, her perception of her that changed, that then allowed her to see others differently and then them respond to her. It's so cool.
So huge, because I think a lot of us do that. We're like, no, I have no diamonds. Like I'm different. It's actually just a blank space over here. You guys all have diamonds. And it's like, no, just like you said, it's like they're there, but it's who we're being, how we're showing up. That's why we can't see these things. And that's why they also don't see it within us. Like people will say, I don't think my clients can see the value in my offer. I'm like, do you see the value in your offer? Yeah, I do. It's right there. I totally see it. And like, you think you see it, but you think they don't see it. And then what I'll start to realize is there's a lack of wanting to be vulnerable. There's this like putting a facade up to look a certain way. And of course, now you're not seen because you're wanting to put up this posture of how you want to be seen. And now you're not actually being seen. But you think you need to like change bullet points on the little slides or whatever it is. And it's like, no, it's not that.
It's not that. Oh, that's so good. I often talk about like how there's people right there waiting for you. So as soon as you step in and just like really speak your truth and show up authentically, then all the people, like it's like they were like wallflowers, like hiding in the wall. Then you'll be able to perceive them, and then like you said, they'll be able to perceive you. They've been waiting for you. And this is true for every single person, whether they are a musician or a coach. Like it's people that you are here to impact actually are waiting. They don't know they're waiting for you. Like it's not a conscious waiting. And each one of us has people that only like we speak their language, they speak ours, and it's too, like there's no lack in all of it.
And like, as you're listening to this, let, Danielle's stories and my stories be evidence of this, because it is so true. Like I've had people who were like, I've been following you for X number of years now, but something, I don't know what it is, something feels different. And they would reach out and then they would buy something and then they would be in my world, but they've been there this whole time. And I've seen this over and over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many great stories here. I'd love to know, Mary, what are you most excited about now moving forward, like in your business or what you're learning? And let's close it off with something really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, so much. We're getting married this year. So that's going to be super fun. Prior to like our actual conversation, Danielle and I were just talking about booking the honeymoon and how that has been going for us. So my fiance and I just booked our honeymoon to Portugal. So we're super excited. So really this year is really focused on the wedding and all the things that we have coming up there. And then when it comes to the business, it's that consistent evolution. Like I've actually been noticing so much as I've been leaning back, people have always leaned forward for me. So, I think a lot of us as we build our businesses have fears of like, well, can I lean away? Is that going to be okay? Do I need to be showing up like this? And a big piece that I've been experiencing this year and for many years now has been the more I've just leaned back and allowed the receival of it all, it's all come through. So this year I feel like has been a lot of inner work, a lot of identity work, a lot of up leveling on the back end where, I've been going deep into this with some of our clients as well. And, you can feel the shift, which has been really, really incredible. So yeah, it's been such a fun year so far. And I can't believe it's already, as we're recording this, it's like the beginning of April. So this is crazy, but so, so good.
So beautiful. Well, I mean, you're about to step into a new identity as a wife along with business owner. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And you'll get to experience letting go, leaning back, like you said, when you go off to your honeymoon. So there's no coincidence that you've been feeling into that this year, you know?
Yeah. And it's funny, the word of the year this year for me is intentionality and anchoring. So it's like, I've been feeling it. It's been super resonating, like it's been there. So yeah, it's just been incredible.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. Congratulations on all your success. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our community today. Where can people find you, and how would you like them to connect with you?
Yeah, so we just started our podcast up this year, which I've been loving. Conversations like this. I think Danielle's actually coming on one of the upcoming episodes on ours as well. So that's going to be really exciting. So The Mary Morgan Show is where you can find me on Spotify or anywhere that you're listening. And our Facebook group, we do a live weekly show in there as well. It's the 7 Figure Spotlight Society. I'm sure this will be in the show notes as well, so you can just plug in.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, as you listen and you have questions and your ahas, please reach out to Mary and I on Instagram and tag us in the replay. And of course, share this podcast, help us help others understand their truth, that they can be, do, and have anything that they desire. Thank you for listening. Expect abundance.